That'll be $4,753. Can you even cover that, old-timer? The voice was sharp, laced with the kind of bored patience only youth can perfect, cutting through the low hum of the fluorescent lights and making a few people in the long snaking line look up from their phones. Samuel Croft didn't flinch. He'd heard worse, far worse. He kept his gaze fixed on the small white paper bag on the counter, the one containing the pills that kept the tremor in his hands at bay and quieted the roaring in his ears. He was a ghost of a man, folded into a worn-out army surplus jacket that had seen better decades. His face a road map of 80-plus years etched with hardship and resilience. But his pale, washed-out blue eyes were clear and steady, absorbing the young pharmacist's condescension without a ripple. I think so, Samuel said, his voice a low, gravelly whisper as his gnarled hands fumbled with the clasp of an old leather wallet. His thin parchment-like skin mapped with faint blue veins that had pumped blood through hell and back. He carefully extracted a small crumpled wad of bills and a handful of coins, laying them on the counter with quiet reverence, as if they were the last relics of a forgotten kingdom. Kevin, maybe 25, with a sharp haircut and a pristine white coat a size too big for his ego, sighed dramatically and swept the money toward himself, tapping an irritated rhythm as he counted 39, 40, 41, and 75, 80, 92. He pushed the pile of change back toward Samuel with disdain. You're $5.61 short, Grandpa. Like I said, this isn't a charity. A woman behind Samuel shifted uncomfortably. A teenager further back snickered, and humiliation settled over Samuel's stooped shoulders like a hot, sticky blanket. He didn't look at Kevin. He just stared at the little pile of coins, the metallic scent filling his nostrils, the same smell as spent shell casings. He searched his pockets slowly and deliberately, brushing against something small and wrapped in worn velvet, but ignoring it, then moving to his trousers to retrieve a few more coins, a button, and a folded yellowed piece of paper. It still wasn't enough. Look, I've got a line here, Kevin snapped. Either you have the money or you don't. We can put these back on the shelf. Someone else can afford them. The finality in his tone was like a door slamming shut, and Samuel's shoulders slumped fractionally as he nodded, reaching a trembling hand toward the bag not to take it, but as if to say goodbye to the prospect of a quiet night's sleep. As he moved, his cuff rose, revealing a faded tattoo of a winged dagger shrouded in shadow, barely visible on weathered skin. No one noticed except one man standing 3 people back, a late 60s man with ramrod-straight posture, a neat gray haircut, and a civilian suit that fit with military precision. His sharp eyes fixed on the scene, recognizing the old man's posture as that of a soldier. As Samuel fumbled again in his jacket, his fingers found the velvet-wrapped object, and, in desperation, he pulled it out, a small tattered pouch like one a soldier might keep a precious item in. As he tried to open it, his trembling hands failed him and the pouch slipped, spilling its contents onto the cold linoleum floor, a heart-shaped medallion of purple metal edged in gold, bearing the profile of George Washington. A purple heart, tarnished with age, its faded ribbon still potent with meaning. Kevin scoffed. Seriously? You're going to try and pay with that? You think that's worth $5? Samuel bent down with a pained groan to retrieve it, his face burning with shame. This was private, sacred, and seeing it exposed on a dirty floor under a contemptuous gaze felt like desecration. But before his fingers could touch it, another strong, steady hand reached down and picked it up. The man in the suit now stood beside Samuel, holding the metal with a gentleness that radiated deep respect. He turned it over, his thumb tracing its worn edges, then looked at Samuel with eyes that were no longer merely observant, but sharpened by sudden intensity. "Where did you get this, soldier?" he asked in a low, commanding rumble. Samuel straightened, meeting the stranger's gaze. "It was given to me," he whispered. "A long time ago." The man studied the metal, then Samuel's face, searching for landmarks he recognized. His eyes dropped to the faint winged dagger on Samuel's wrist, and his breath caught. It couldn't be. "My God," he breathed, stepping back as his posture shifted instinctively from civilian ease to the rigid respect of a subordinate before a legend. Tears welled in his eyes. "Sergeant Croft, Samuel Croft." Samuel looked confused. No one had called him by that title in 60 years. "Yes, I'm Samuel Croft." The man in the suit turned to Kevin, his quiet authority now forged into steel. "Young man," he said, not as a request but a command, "you will give this soldier his medication. You will give him anything else he needs, and you will do it free of charge." Kevin puffed his chest. "And who are you to tell me what to do? This is a business. I'm the manager on duty." The man drew a wallet from his jacket and flipped it open, revealing a crest with 4 silver stars. "I am General Marcus Wallace, United States Army," he announced, his voice silencing the entire pharmacy. "And you, son, are standing in the presence of a hero who has more honor in his little finger than you have in your entire body. Now you will do as I say." Color drained from Kevin's face as he stared between the general and the frail man he'd mocked. The store fell utterly silent. General Wallace turned back to Samuel, his sternness softening to reverence. He placed the Purple Heart gently in Samuel's hand. "Sergeant Croft," he said thickly, "I've read your file or what's left of it. Most of it is still classified. I studied your actions at the Chosen Reservoir. Every officer at West Point learns about the ghost of the 38th parallel, the lone operative who held the Eastern Pass for 72 hours against an entire platoon. We thought it was just a legend. They said the man's identity would remain sealed forever." His gaze swept the room and landed on Kevin with crushing force. "This man is Sergeant Samuel Croft. He is not just a veteran. He is the sole survivor of Operation Night Adder, a mission so secret the government denied it ever happened. He and his team were dropped behind enemy lines in Korea to destroy a supply depot feeding 3 enemy divisions. They were outnumbered 100 to 1. He paused as the weight of his words settled. Samuel stood frozen, clutching the metal, his eyes distant. He was no longer in the pharmacy but back in the snow, wind clawing at his face, the air thick with pine and gunpowder. The world was white and gray and red. The snow seeped into his bones like a predator, stealing his warmth. His rifle's muzzle was the only heat. Wedged between 2 frozen rocks, he hadn't moved in what felt like forever. His team was gone. Jackson, with his easy laugh, lay 20 yards left beneath a silent mound of snow. Garcia, who always talked about the Texas heat, had fallen trying to flank a machine gun nest. Their faces, young and determined even in death, were burned into him. He was alone. The radio had been shattered by a stray round hours ago. His ammo critically low, and still they kept coming. Waves of them in quilted uniforms that made them look like ghosts against the white landscape. He remembered the moment the grenade landed, arcing through the air like a dark punctuation mark against the gray sky. There was no time to run or think, only time to twist his body to shield the radio pack he still hoped to fix and take the blast with his back and leg. The explosion roared, then faded into ringing silence as white-hot pain ripped through him and shrapnel tore into his flesh, his blood melting a steaming circle in the snow. He thought it was the end, but hearing their voices again, he propped himself on one elbow, vision swimming, raised his rifle, and fired because he wasn't dead yet and he had a promise to keep for Jackson. For Garcia, for the boys counting on him firing until consciousness abandoned him. General Wallace's voice pulled him back to the present as he said Samuel had taken shrapnel from a grenade, been shot twice, and still held the pass. When reinforcements arrived 2 days later, they found him unconscious, half buried in snow, surrounded by more than 50 enemy soldiers, having saved an entire division from encirclement. The general's eyes glistened as he said the Purple Heart in Samuel's hand was one of 3 he earned, along with the Silver Star, the Distinguished Service Cross, and a battlefield commission. He declined to stay with his men, and that for his classified actions he received the Medal of Honor in a private White House ceremony but was ordered never to speak of it. Silence filled the pharmacy. The woman behind Samuel wept, the teenagers stared at the floor, and Kevin's arrogant smirk dissolved into horrified shame as he finally saw not an old broke man but a legend. The fire of sacrifice in his clear blue eyes. I didn't know," Kevin whispered, but General Wallace's granite voice replied that he hadn't cared to know. Had judged a worn jacket and empty pockets and seen age as weakness instead of a testament to survival and service. He slapped his credit card on the counter, ordering Kevin to ring up the prescription and apply credit for 5 years of medicine, all billed to him. Kevin nodded shakily, fumbling at the computer. The general turned to Samuel, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder, saying it was the greatest honor of his career to meet him and promising he would not be homeless another night. Samuel's eyes filled with long-denied tears, not of sadness but of being seen after 60 years of living as a ghost, and he whispered, "Thank you." Kevin finished the transaction in silence, pushing the medicine across with red-rimmed eyes and apologizing, ashamed. Samuel touched the young man's arm and told him softly that the deepest wounds are the ones no one can see, urging him to be kinder because everyone is fighting a battle unseen. Then he turned, and General Wallace supported him as they walked out, customers parting like the sea, their faces filled with awe, respect, and quiet shame. The story spread through town like wildfire, becoming a legend reminding people that heroes don't always wear capes or uniforms. Sometimes they wear worn-out jackets, quiet and unassuming, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to look deeper and see the honor beneath. True worth is not measured by a wallet or a coat but by character and sacrifice. Look around you. The next time you see an elderly person struggling, remember Samuel Croft and offer a hand, a word, a moment. You might be in the presence of a hero. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that honor our hidden heroes.